Welcome back. Let's have a look at some of these coins then, shall we? Let's have a look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link and XRP. So is this the breakout that people have been waiting for? Is this the big one? Is this going to push us up and beyond and to all-time highs for Bitcoin and take the rest of the market with it, especially the top cap alts, which have kind of been dragging their feet a little bit, apart from Link, which I guess is definitely, at this point now, it's a top cap alt. So let's have a look at Bitcoin then, shall we? So basically we've been stuck beneath this descending trend here for quite a long period of time, and actually as of today we've broken out of it. So in that sense it's definitely bullish. Alright, we're in a bit of a rejection here from the 50 simple moving average, so that's exactly where it's been rejected from, and in fact that's the only moving average of any significance that's actually above us at this point, therefore being, apart from the top of the Bollinger Band here, basically the last sort of, I suppose, rejection point to be met, for me anyway. Other than that, breaking above here, we do have an itchy cloud that we could find rejection from around about 9,500. That area is historically, or at least recently, a bit of a difficult area to break above. So to be honest with you, looking at the chart now, what we see is still beneath the 0 point, but we have a nice, well, it's not that nice, but it's significant enough to say that yes, we look like we might be turning bullish on the MACD, but we're still beneath the 0 point. We're still pretty much flat as a pancake, even though the histogram has got that spike on it. The RSI doesn't really have any real significance on it. To be honest, we've got nothing really to chart or trend here. Volume is still pretty low, so to be honest with you, we'll see if this breaks. It looks like it might want to break, and if it does, then we'll be definitely testing the top of the Bollinger Band around 9,415, and if we can make that any further, I would expect a rejection around 9,500 or thereabouts, and then we will start to decide on where it's going to go. If we fall back beneath this descending trend, I would call that an attempt to wipe out shorts, as people are getting basically bearish. I mean, personally, I've been bearish for a while. You go back on my channel, you'll see that I've been bearish more or less from around about this area here. And to be honest, that's paid off quite well. Now, I've been expecting a bit more of a drop on this, but we've not yet got it. So let's have a look at the smaller time frames to see if there's any clues to what's going on here. We have on the 4 hour, looks like we might be it looks like we might be reaching a peak already on the 4 hour, but that's just a 4 hour. We don't have any golden crosses, we don't have any significant crosses, but the if you can see, obviously with a big move like this, which is, how big is that? I mean, in all fairness, it's not enormous. It's, for Bitcoin, it's pretty small. It's like 2%. It's not that big really, but it's big enough considering we've been sort of like I say, flat as a pancake for this long period of time, to start making all these moving averages start to look quite steep. So back to the daily, which is where I generally do most of my trading, really, to see where we're going and what's going on with it. We have to break above this area here, and because this has got a negative slope on it still, breaking above it and staying above it is the only thing that's going to start to make it tilt up. So we're going to have to break above and stay above areas of pretty much where we are now, 9,350 or a little bit higher. There's no clue on this other than the fact that we've broken out of a descending resistance trend to suggest that we're going to have continuation. It doesn't, to me, look like we are going to have continuation, but if we did and we broke above this area and this area, then it's this area here where I would expect the biggest rejection. And this is the area really where I would say that we're going to enter into bull market territory. Once we've broken out of this trend, and I'll show you why, I'm sure if you've watched my channel before, you'll see why, because I go on about it all the time. It's been a consolidation trend line for over 2.5 years now, so because of that, it's very significant. Breaking above there, I would probably say that there's a good chance that we're in bull market territory. I'm talking about bull run territories, like making huge gains across the board with everything, especially Bitcoin, maybe even Bitcoin leading the market, because dominance is starting to peak up a little bit now, and actually, you know, it's been very bearish dominance, as you can see, with all these altcoins making massive runs. As of yesterday, we had a little dip with Bitcoin, but alts crashed. So it looks like alt season, may be over, as Bitcoin is now looking like it might, and I have to stress, it might be changing its direction. But we're still, this is technically, for me, this is no man's land, alright? Yeah, we've broken out of this trend, we're still beneath this trend, so within this area is still no man's land. There's a glimmer of hope that we might break out, but until we break out of this area, I'm not going to hold my breath for anything significant. In fact, I think the likelihood is that we're more likely to be rejected from this area and continue down. Now, I know a lot of people will say, well, actually, that's only less than 10,000. What about these supports and resistances back at these historical levels that we've been at higher than that? Yet they will also count. But for me personally, I think this consolidation trend line, breaking this will make a significant move. And actually, what I'll do is I'll show you this on XRP as an example. XRP had been and has, even though XRP is a terrible looking chart, we've been in a consolidation trend zone just like that. But every time we broke out of it, and like I say, it was just very bad timing for XRP, with what happened with the rest of the market and the economy as a whole. So we broke out of it and rallied massively. This doesn't look much, but it is. We broke out of that and we made a 27% move, just because we broke out of that trend line. And again, we did it here, less of a move on this occasion, but it's still quite significant, 20%. So, these moves are likely to happen with Bitcoin if we break out of that trend line. Will it have continuation? We just don't know, but it would likely have a big move if we did break out of there. Right, so we might as well go into XRP then, so let's have a look a little closer on XRP. And this is the thing about XRP, but people give it a bad rap, and I like to trade it, to be honest. I think it's a very tradable asset, even though it's a depreciating currency throughout. But so long as you're buying and selling, longing and shorting, it's actually all right. And I've said this before. This area here, since we've broken out of this trend line here, technically we're in accumulation, and this accumulation phase can go on for quite a long time. So that would be accumulating anywhere between lower than 10 cent or as high as about 20. Where did I have it? About 21 cent, 22, 23 cent. All of that area is technically accumulation. Now, you're not going to see massive, big, bold moves like you have done in the past with XRP for a while. The way I see it is that until it breaks areas like 85, 86 cent, you're not going to start seeing it doing huge, enormous things. But just from what I've shown you here, XRP is capable of doing really big moves in comparison to Bitcoin. So even though the chart looks horrendous and terrible, when it moves, it does still move. It's shown that it's got that power. So just on this move, what was that? A 26% move on this one, just a 20% move. The Bitcoin doesn't do that all that often, and XRP still does do it. So you can trade this one very well, and for a coin that people like to slag off a lot. Even myself, obviously, for obvious reasons. Look at that chart. For obvious reasons, for a coin that people like to slag off, I mean, it's still capable of doing big moves very quickly. So a coin that can do that doesn't tell me anything about it being a dead asset. It tells me that it's got a lot of volume in it, a lot of volatility in it, and actually there's every reason for me to believe that it could reach its all-time high or even more. But personally, my personal target with depending on the state of the market, my personal target to get rid of everything is going to be around $2. But that's dependent on the market. If the market's looking good and sweet, and that $2 is hit, within a year or two. Less than that, I'd say about towards the end of next year. I'll be looking to sell it anyway. But like I say, it's very difficult to say, because in the history of XRP, the way it works is it does drag its feet for a very long period of time. It consolidates for an enormous amount of time, and then when it does do its moves, it does them very fast. Within 4 to 8 weeks, it will 10x, and that doesn't come as any surprise to anyone really, because you've seen lots of coins do 10x's in shorter spaces of time than that. XRP is no different. It's just a longer coin. It's a longer asset, so it's been around for a lot longer than some of these others. So its cycle is completely different to those of things like Elrond, which has done a 10x in the last 4 months. When will Elrond do another 10x? I don't know. Will it have to consolidate? What will, you know? They're completely different assets. They work completely differently. All I'm saying is that this is a start of an accumulation phase, meaning to me that actually we're going to start to see some big moves on this. But as of right now, the deal with XRP is that we are above most moving averages, but the main one for us, and this is what it looks like, I suppose, with a coin that's been consolidating for such a long period of time. We're stuck beneath the 200 exponential moving average. Being stuck beneath there, always bearish for anything. Cryptocurrencies, commodities, everything, charts, stocks, everything. So because we're stuck beneath there, it's not going to make any big moves. We can come up to test it and be rejected from it like we were on this occasion, and pretty much on every occasion, more or less, that we come to test it. But once you get above it and you can claim it as a support, then actually that's where we start to get interesting. This was all alts began to look like this at this point last year, so it was definitely an underperformer, but the reason being we were stuck beneath a descending consolidation trend still, same as Bitcoin was. XRP was the same. So yeah, we broke above it, but we were rejected from here and came back down with the rest of the market. So accumulation, that's great. We can accumulate all around this area, all between this area, which is an enormous area to accumulate above, below this 200 exponential. Breaking above there and supporting above there is going to start to make some nice gains at that point, and that's dependent on the health of the market, so obviously dependent on Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin breaks above this trend line and XRP breaks above the 200 exponential, then I think you will start to see a different move with XRP. I think we'll start to see a different future, and all those haters might actually flip to put some money into it and eat their words. I'm not saying that I'm not an XRP army. I've thought about it a lot, and this is the conclusion I've come to. I've come to the conclusion that XRP isn't as bad as everyone says it is, and actually buying down at these levels is not a bad idea. Even though I'm not a financial advisor, it's not financial advice, but I've been trading this asset for quite a while now, so I've got a nice little bag of this, and I continue to build upon that bag at these levels, definitely. Anyway, that's XRP for you. Ethereum, definitely out of all of these charts that we've looked at, looks like the best one. We're looking at an asset which is basically above all major moving averages, and the moving averages are spread in exactly the way you'd like it. So highest time frames down here, lowest time frames down here, and above all of those altogether. Let's have a look at some of these. So again, unlike Bitcoin, we're above the 0 point average, and we're about to make that cross. The histogram's about to cross over as well. So that's actually looking good. RSI doesn't have any kind of form to it, but as far as moving averages and the chart's concerned, yeah, this one looks better than all the ones that we've looked at so far. But like I say, it's all dependent on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin pulls back, which it could very well do, it will pull these back too. But as far as this chart's concerned, this chart looks good. This is the chart that you want to look at. This is the chart that you want your charts to look like this. Okay, we've pretty much got everything evenly spread. So let's have a quick look on the weekly, see if there's anything on the weekly that's of any significance or interest. Well, we're above the Ichimoku cloud also, being supported on there, which is good. And again, pretty much the kind of spread that you'd want to see. You've got a 10 here, 50, 50. It's crosses here as well. So this one does look very good actually, even on the weekly, daily. Now we look on the 4 hourly, which I imagine to be extremely bullish. Yeah, I mean this chart is the one that you want really. This is what you'd be very pleased with yourself to have a bag of Ethereum at this point now. However, we're getting at critical levels for Ethereum. As you can see, lots of rejection around these areas here, and candle bodies around this area here. So breaking above around 248 to 250. That's when you'll see some really big moves with Ethereum. And Chainlink, so Chainlink again, look at this. This is a perfect rainbow spread of moving averages, looking very good, very steep. A bit of a correction taking place, but that's natural after what looks like doing a 2x almost on that one. So coming back down maybe a little further. The only reason I say that is because the MACD is certainly going to be making that cross unless we make a significant pump now, which isn't it could definitely do that. RSI is sort of dancing around in a decent area, so this could again pump. It could pump up to these levels. 850, 9 maybe, but because it's relatively overextended, I would just wait a little while. But again, it's all relative to the health of the market, and that's governed by Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin can continue with this, especially above here, then you'll start to see huge rallies with some of these. They'll really tire themselves out, but you'll start to see huge rallies with them. So all of these assets look quite good. XRP, like I say, they're good for the long term. Immediate term, Ethereum looks best. Link is definitely a will they, won't they, and same with Bitcoin. Really, Bitcoin looks like it wants to start something new, but it's still got one big major hurdle ahead of it. Apart from obviously the one that we're at right now, if we could step over this one, we do have that major hurdle just coming in around 9,900. Anyway, I'll leave it with you there. Thanks for watching, and take it easy.